Hi.
Oh my goodness, look at these lovely faces in front of me. Hi.
Hello.
Hi. Let me do my introduction first. Hello, and welcome to the first Atheist Women of the Roundtable. Yay! Oh, I'm so excited. You all just don't know. I am your host, Cynthia McDonald, and I just want to thank all the audience for actually joining myself in this fabulous panel of wonderful ladies that are in the atheist community. And just a little housekeeping before we get started. Please like this video and share it, and also subscribe to this channel, Your Friendly Neighborhood Atheists. Yay! Okay, great. We got that out the way. So let us go around and introduce this wonderful panel. So let's start with to my what hand is this? Is that my? I think that's to my right. Okay, cool. All right. How when we go first start with right? I don't know. Cindy Plaza, go ahead. Introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi. Well, I'm Cindy Plaza. I'm French, and I'm currently living in Belgium. I've been an atheist since I was 9, but since I grew up in France, it didn't have much impact on my life. So right now, I don't have any content outside Ethan's page. I have a couple of videos already. One is coming in a few days. So that's it. That's all I have at the moment. I'm preparing to teach critical thinking in a few weeks, few months maybe, and that's the plan for now.
Nice.
And you have a very adorable cat that was sort of doing real cute things behind you.
Yeah. I was going to say that. I said usually, like I'm really famous for saying cats are jerks, but your cat is cute, so I'm gonna have to give you that. All right. Next in line is Jenna without a last name. Jenna, introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Jenna without a last name. What can I say? I live in California. I just only recently fully accepted and coming out as an atheist, but have struggled with it for several years. I am a closeted atheist, so anyone outside of online community does not know. So this is a bit of a risk for me.
Oh, wow.
But that's okay. Let's see. I am a moderator for the ACA Discord. I also do organize with the assistance of the admin Justin for an international free thinker server. And every week on Wednesday, we actually did a show last night. We host a hour and a half long show every week, just having conversations and discussions through Discord that we do stream through StreamYard as well. And Ethan was actually one of our guests for one of our shows a couple of weeks back. So it was nice of him to invite me to do this. I've never done this before. This is totally new to me. This is more exposure than I think I realized I wanted. But I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, thank you for actually joining us, and thank you for your bravery. You're actually showing your beautiful face here. Thank you. Okay, next is one half of Divine Disbelief.
Yes.
Susan.
Hi. I wasn't sure if I should put Susan Skeptits, since that's what my display name is on a lot of stuff. Because it's not a self-given nickname, but I was like, I don't know. So hi, I'm Susan. I am a recent organ transplant. I lived in Texas my whole life up until 2 months ago. I like Oregon. It's in the Portland area, so it's pretty great. It's basically Austin, but with better weather. I've been an atheist for about a decade, or a little over a decade. My mother's actually also an atheist, so I never really had to do the whole coming out to family thing. My mother has a better deconversion story than I do, which I'll tell later. But yeah, I host Divine Disbelief with my boyfriend Nathaniel, who is actually standing right there. Hi, Nathaniel. There's a humongous FedEx package sitting right next to me. Holy crap. So that's me.
We should make you open it on camera, but that's okay. I'm not gonna do that.
Is it this long? How long is it? Is it thin? Is it thick?
It's about that big.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, big. Yeah,
Oh.
I think it's mostly Funko Pops actually. So we got a whole bunch of them.
And we're going to reveal what's in the box at the end of the show.
Yes, we are. And it's not Gwyneth Paltrow's head. So we're good.
That's like, right. We'll make this the big reveal. Okay, that was like, the big reveal is the big reveal that we didn't even know that the big reveal was going to happen. All right, up next is Jenna with the last name, Jenna Belk. Introduce yourself.
Hello.
Hello.
I've been an atheist for a year and a half. Been questioning for probably 8 years or so. And then went to the ACA really fast and started volunteering and then got put on AXP. AXP, yeah.
Yay! Best shows ever.
And since then, what's up?
I was one of the best shows ever. Yes.
I love it. It helps me deconvert. And so I'm honored that I get to do the questioning now in a nice controlled environment. But it's this community has inspired me to start my own show as well. And so I've started that. It's all called Atheist Stasis. And it's because I found that coming to this community, I thought that everything would be the exact opposite of what I grew up with. So I was like, oh, I grew up with extremists. So everybody's going to be all neutral on this side.
Wide opener, right?
Yeah.
I was wrong. So I was like, all right, so we need to try to promote a balanced atheist perspective, hence the stasis, because I want to help. What I've been saying is help to bridge the gap between atheist and theist. I want to start talking to each other.
Nice. I like that. I like that. Very good. All right. And last but certainly not least, I'm going to say this really slow. Nervardia. Introduce yourself.
My name's Nervardia. Well, my real name's Meredith, but I go by Nervardia. I run a YouTube channel called Nervardia. I don't exist because I am Australian and I am actually a NASA shill. And for that, I also do sort of a atheist and science communication channel as well. So at the moment, I've been doing a lot more science and atheism, but so I kind of try and do something for everyone. But yeah, that's basically me. Non-existent. I don't exist. I'm an actor. Yeah.
I don't know anything, so.
By the way, for those of you who don't understand the joke, the flat earthers don't think Australia exists.
Oh.
Yeah, hence the joke.
Oh my god! I just real quick. It's funny you said that. Like, I remember like a few months ago, I was at an event where like they do like 5 minutes like talks, and one person was actually giving statistics about flat earthers, that there's actually like 2% in the 2% of the population in the United States actually believe that the Earth is flat. And I said, I just want to just remark that that's scary to me. And move along. Okay.
Yep.
It's like, but isn't it ridiculously high? Like almost 50% don't think evolution is a thing.
There's a lot of
something like that.
Yeah.
That wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
I can't remember what the exact statistic is, but it's very, very high.
Wow.
Those are things that scare me. And I think, well, you know what? Let's just make that a question. As an atheist, and this is not even on the roster, but since we went there, as an atheist, what are some of the things that you actually hear from others who may believe in a God or have like some spiritual leaning that that you find troubling to you? Cindy, since you're to the right of me, go ahead, go start.
The thing I find the most I'm not going to say stupid, but very close, is when I hear if you don't believe in God, how can you have morals?
Mm-hmm.
That's what concerns me the most, because it's very self-centered view, because in the US you have a very high percentage of the population who is atheist, but here in Europe it's the opposite. I grew up with a God, but just it was mostly an idea. It wasn't a church, it wasn't the Bible, it wasn't anything like that. And when I realized that it was just carrot on a stick, could say, it didn't have any impact on my life. And even 10, 15, 20 years later, it doesn't change anything to me. But suggesting that people like me who don't believe in God, even some of them who haven't been exposed to the idea of God, cannot be moral and cannot act morally, I find this idea completely stupid.
I agree.
Yeah. In fact,
Ryan? Go ahead.
I've met many atheists who've gone, I've become a more moral person since I've become an atheist.
Of course, it depends on how you define morals.
Yeah.
Wow.
Cindy, I think I had heard. I think there was a stream that I was on with Nathaniel here on this channel, and Cynthia, you were here too. Cindy, was it you that had said instead of using the word morals, we should just use the word ethics? I feel like you said that, and that's stuck in my brain. And that's something that it's like I didn't think about it that way. Like that's perfect.
And it's not my idea. In fact, I heard this argument on Susan Q's page when she reviewed Matt Dillahunty's latest debate. She had her boyfriend there, and he said the difference between moral and ethics is that moral is. He used a very, very interesting example. He said the moral is if you have your kid coming and ask you, why cannot I do that? Having morals is like answering because I said so, and having ethics is like answering you cannot do that because it will have consequences to you or to someone else. And I found that very, very on point because I think it's a great analogy. And that's why I think we should stop using morals and start using ethics.
Yeah.
Because we need to remove this discrepancy between the two words.
I think that can be dangerous because then they could say that we don't have morals.
but we have ethics. And we don't need anyone to tell us what our ethics has to be.
Right.
We can figure out by ourselves.
Yeah.
So next time somebody asks me, sorry.
No, go ahead, Jenna. Go.
I was gonna say the next time somebody asks me, how do you have morals? I'm gonna say, okay, let's talk about morals.
It's like let's have this discussion.
I think it's a really good discussion to have. And and I think that like and I don't know if you all can corroborate this that ethics oftentimes are like the set of values that multiple people share, no matter what culture or country or what have you that they come from. It's kind of like, a set of these are the things that everyone follows. Would you say that is? Like, anybody want to jump in to say that?
I think it just creates a standard that it takes away the subjectiveness of it and makes it more objective, where you need to treat others that you interact with or you come across as a certain way, and it creates a standard that you can follow to go ahead and treat those people that you interact with more humanly rather than causing more harm. And then, as far as morals, people take that as, whatever they subjectively feel is moral for them or whatever they are told through the Bible.
I'm reminded of a situation when I was in 6th grade, and there was a girl in my class that said, "Oh my God," and I told on her, and she got in trouble. And when she came and asked me, she was frustrated, and she just goes, "Oh, why?" And I go, "It's for your own good."
Oh wow!
Oh my God!
And thinking back, I'm like, who is that person? But it's
I kind of disagree here because I don't think ethics can be unrelated to the culture, because if you have different cultures, you will have different ethics. If you look at native aborigines. They have different culture, different ethics. I don't know. I guess it's a long debate we could have, but I think ethics have to be, because ethics to me is a group of rules we impose on ourselves to protect the society over the individual. That's how I see it.
So the reason that I bring that up is because when you try to convince somebody that there's an objective standard, but there's no supreme being that has created it, I think that they resist that. And so, when you think about that, I mean, that's what I was in 6th grade. I was just repeating what I had been told, that's just how it was. And so when you have people that get other people in trouble and think that they're actually helping them by doing that, how do you convince them of anything like this, Just thinking out loud, I guess.
I don't know. Think out loud. That's what we're here for. It's a conversation. Yeah.
I mean, you always hear the whole you can't reason somebody into you can't reason somebody out of something they weren't reasoned into. But that I don't know how I feel about that. I'm not entirely sure, just because I don't think it's giving a person enough credit for their situation and stuff. But it is really, really hard for people to change, when they're, even when they're met with resistance directly resulting from their actions and their words and stuff. People are just so much I'm not going to change. I'm not going to do it. And it's hard to sort of convince people otherwise.
So. It sounds like we'd have to convince the world that change is somehow not a bad thing.
Right. You would think. You'd think people would think
God.
But it is two sides. It's one side that's kind of like, oh yes, just whatever the ancestors said, whatever the old people did, do whatever they did, regardless of what happens afterward.
Yeah, but they also use leeches.
I know.
Very true.
Fair point.
Yeah.
Fair point.
And tradition is just peer pressure from dead people. So
right. I've never understood tradition.
Yeah.
When I went to a Catholic school, and its motto was Tenete Traditiones, which means hold on to the traditions we taught you. And it was a Catholic school. Yeah, that didn't work for me.
Yeah, no.
Because let's continue raping young children. Yay.
Yeah.
I think,
but then they'll deny it.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry.
I think my idea of just holding on to traditions is that you continue trying to survive in your space, right? With some certain, I would say maybe all religions, they hold on, or whatever culture, they hold on to the tradition because they want for that culture that they've been in and that has lasted for so many generations to survive. But at the same time, I think it's okay to a certain extent to hold on to, whatever ties you to that culture or that group or what have you. And that's fine. But once it becomes harmful to others or even to yourself, where you can't find a space to thrive out of that, you're just continuously surviving on the old ways. And you're not growing or you're not changing. That's what it's beautiful.
That's what we've done forever, up until, and now I'm not a neurologist or a psychologist. I just happen to be fascinated by the human brain. And so from what I've gathered, the prefrontal cortex is relatively new. The logic thinking part of our brain is new. It added on after the amphibian brain, the adrenaline,
the
fight or flight response, intuition brain. That was what got us here. And now we're learning how to figure things out as we go. And that's why it's why it's there. I just think that's fascinating.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah.
I love it.
So since we were on talking about a little bit about traditions, so what would you all think that, how would you evaluate when a tradition that you've known or that you grew up with or what have you is ready to be let go? Like, how do you evaluate that would be something that you should have to do, or does, if it works or if it doesn't work, if that makes sense?
I'll jump in. I think if this tradition goes against scientific beliefs, like, well, not beliefs, like scientific advances, like, for example, scientific advances has shown that homosexuality is innate, we can't change it, like sexuality is innate. So I think if the tradition goes against very solid scientific ideas, then it should be thrown out, because that's just me as a person who's really into science. So I don't know. Anybody want to respond?
Yeah. Other people talk about that. Come on.
I'm definitely prone to agree with that, because science has a tendency, other than in the, how different people interpret
I love it.
different, data. It's, to me, and I could be entirely wrong in this, so correct me if I'm wrong, science is so objective that it's like, it will only change if something comes in and disproves it or like falsifies it, basically. It's not like it's going to adapt to, the ever-changing climate and stuff. So, having that sort of set standard of, you need to make sure that you keep in line with science and stuff.
Because it's reality.
Yeah.
It's reality.
Yeah.
Well, I thought that science had... I thought that science had nothing to do with me growing up. I didn't care. I called it that science stuff because it was just, I just see, beakers and all this, this atomic chart, the atomic, what is it?
The periodic table.
The periodic table.
I'm a chemistry major. I'm majoring in chemistry. I'm going. Rage quit right now.
I wasn't kidding when I said I don't know anything. But I'm familiar with so many things. I learned it in school, but I just didn't care. I learned enough to take the test and then move on. So I'm readdressing all this. That's hence atheistasis, and I'm doing it on basically every subject because I'm having to readdress the periodic table and everything.
Yeah. There was a conversation. This was like 6 or 7 years ago, I think. Andrian, who is the scientist, she's fantastic. She's wonderful, and I love her. She's the late Carl Sagan's wife. So she was doing like this, like a Google Hangout sort of thing where people get asked questions. And I was like, I'm somebody who sort of got an interest in science later on in life. Do you have any suggestions for, how we, how to approach things that can seem so confusing, especially if you're coming from religion and stuff? And she was just all like, embrace it. And be a sponge and just learn as much as possible. And don't be afraid to ask the questions. And I was like, I love you so much, Andrea. And oh my God, I love you. So she's like one of my heroes. So I love her.
That's something that I love about this community is there have been so many times where I'll go ask a person, how do I do this? Right. And what I normally would get would be, oh, you have to do it this way and this way, or this way. But what I've been getting is,
yeah. I don't know.
I'm like, oh, okay. I've got to figure it out. Cool. And then I'm learning that I can.
And also another thing that I think that we need to get into people's brains is being uneducated is not being stupid. Being not knowing the knowledge does not mean you're stupid.
Yeah, I heard you say that last night on your stream, and I was just all like, "That's good. That's good. I like that." Yeah.
So what is stupid?
Stupid is being getting all the information and not being able to process it, or just distorting the information, or just not, or rejecting it, or just sometimes people just don't get it, and that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly fine. I had to explain to my stepmother what a USB stick was, and she just didn't understand it, and that's fine. I don't understand math, but stupidity is also Dunning-Kruger effect, I think, is another example of stupidity, is where you think you're a little bit knowledgeable on something and therefore you think you know everything about it. Yeah, so,
That was me not long ago. Now I know I'm at the bottom. I'm like, I'm right here.
yeah.
You're getting there. You're getting there.
Trying.
And there is a difference between stupidity and intellectual disability. I work with people with disabilities, and some of them are really freaking cluey, and others, and they just have amazing intellectually right there. They're just not great at learning something. So yeah, it's a spectrum, and there's different ways of figuring things out. But yeah, I really wish we stopped equating not knowing something being stupid, because that is clearly not the case.
Yeah.
I don't like using that word. I don't think it's useful.
Well, I don't know, Jenna. 'Cause sometimes, like, you know, I'd be running into some folk and they be saying some stupid stuff. So anyway, and I have to call them out. But you know, that's a whole other story. Anywho, but speaking of that, I wanted to ask you all. Since I'm assuming, like, you know, for a long time that a lot of you all mentioned that you guys kind of like questioned a lot, you know, growing up, especially like if you grew up like in a faith. Did you find yourself kind of afraid to ask questions while you were questioning to get better clarity, and why?
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
I think for me, I questioned silently. I never verbalized my concerns or issues I had when I read the Bible, or I was listening to the preacher, or sitting in Sunday school. So my questioning was always silent. And given my personality, I'm kind of just a to myself quiet person most of the time. So, I mean, I just got used to just, you know, having inner monologues with myself. And it became worse for several years after, like, finally discovering and understanding what an atheist was and what it meant to be one. Because when I was younger, I always had the sense of something not feeling right whenever I finally actually did pay attention in church. So it just felt off to me. But I just had to keep with what I was born into, because I knew nothing else. And I had this perception that, you know, everyone is like me, or, well, maybe not necessarily like me, but like my family, because I'm just kind of this oddball, wondering if I'm just not strong enough in my faith. So I just had to keep to it until I got to a certain age where I finally discovered otherwise. So I never publicly voiced any skepticism, any issues that I had that I was like trying to work through for myself.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's a really great book that I read that is by Candace Gorham called the Ebony Exodus Project, I believe is what it's called. I adore Candace Gorham. I absolutely love her, and it's a great book because it's a different perspective than what I'm used to, because, you know, I am painfully white. So it's really great to see things, because it's about, you know, how it's so different culturally for Black people, especially Black women, coming out of religion and out of the church and stuff, because it's so, she says it's so culturally ingrained, and I'm just like, these are things that I, as a white person, don't think about. Because my mom's an atheist, I haven't had to deal with the whole like coming out to family stuff. You know, it's been way easier for me than for a lot of other people, and I completely acknowledge that privilege, like completely and entirely. But like, so Jenna and Cynthia, I'm sorry to sort of like completely derail stuff with me asking my own questions. Have y'all found like as women of color, like that? I mean, Jenna, you said you're sort of not really out, you know, in public and stuff. Right. Do you find that you are met with a lot more resistance, not just from, you know, friends and family members who might know, but people in general, because of like what they may expect of you based on your race and your gender? That was a lot of question, and I'm very, very sorry. I'm just blathering. I'm really sorry.
It's only taken me just recently to kind of reflect and really think about this. But Cynthia, you go ahead while I kind of.
Sure.
Yeah.
And okay, so one thing I will say, Susan, and I'm just going to say this just because, and don't take this a bad way. I don't particularly care for the term person of color or woman of color.
Yeah.
And the only reason being is because the experiences when it comes to like women who may have come from different cultural backgrounds or ethnicities can be extremely different depending on the person that's Black, especially Black American. So, but I will say this. And even though I'm only supposed to host, I'm not supposed to be asking questions, but that's okay. But I think like it may have been just a tad bit easier for me only because I come from an Episcopal background and I went to a Catholic school. So so like when I came out as atheist, it really wasn't a big deal as far as like a familiar way. But I did go through a whole phase of being saved and with the very charismatic evangelical, almost like, slightly Church of God in Christ non-denominational type tradition. And I definitely, even in that particular time period, I questioned a lot, but like, Jenna mentioned, I did it silently. But in any time that I would like bring up some questions when I was studying to be a minister, like, I kind of got dismissed a bit if like they couldn't really answer my questions. And so I kind of kept a lot of that to myself because I was afraid of losing community because that's definitely, I would say, like, especially for like a lot of Black Christians, like that is very much so a part of identity. It's a huge part of identity. And actually stepping away from that is almost like becoming homeless, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
so,
it does.
Yeah. I was just going to say something along the lines of that. Just stepping away or not acknowledging your belief in, the Christian God is pretty much you are writing off being Black. Basically, because when you go to anywhere as a Black person, you automatically are met with this question like, oh, what church do you go to? So you automatically are under this umbrella that you are a person of faith and you must, have gone to some church that I'm sure I know I go to on several occasions too. So you're automatically placed in this bubble because it's so ingrained, of course, in our history, and then I've actually had this talk before, just kind of last night in a previous show that I did with some friends that, I see both good and bad from the church, the Black church. So for me, I started being in the choir from as young as 5 years old till I was 18. That was my enjoyment. That was, in a sense, my escape from actually paying attention in church because I like singing. I did, I did the Christmas plays, I did the Easter plays, I did the other plays in between. I did the praise dancing, I did the multimedia stuff. I was all over the place. I did a lot. I was anointed when I was 3 years old and baptized twice because I switched to a different church. So once you go to a different church, you got to get baptized again for some reason.
Money, definitely.
Evidently, all that anointing and baptizing didn't work. But, but given the history for Black people, especially during the Civil Rights Movement, that was this sense of safety where you could not escape from anything else, where you meet in secret and privacy, and you have that community that fed you, that helped clothe you, that provided education to your children, that helped develop colleges that are sponsored or funded or donated from Black colleges, like Morehouse, for instance, is a college that's heavily funded by a Black church. So it's those benefits that helped progress the Black community, but at the same time, there are hindrances because, like I had mentioned before, it's a continuous survival mode. And where people mention that we're in a post-racial society now, obviously they're wrong because that's not the case. It's just different. It's overtly different. And so we are continuously in this survival mode and we have to adhere to these doctrines and teachings. And it's so ingrained because of, post-Reconstruction. This is the only thing we had to go on. And because of that, it's hindering us from actually thriving as individuals, from actually being more than just seen as this.
Yeah. And I just want to say, Cynthia, I do appreciate the correction. So thank you. I do appreciate that.
No problem. Very good. So,
just a second.
go ahead, Cindy. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm back. I wanted to answer to what Jenna said a few seconds ago. I find it, and I'm really sorry if I say something wrong. Please correct me right away. But it seems to me that it's kind of ironic that the Christian religion is seen right now as so much part of the Black community identity, because the first Africans that were enslaved, they weren't Christians, right?
Right.
So
right.
It feels like the Christian religion was another tool used to control you, and now it stays like this, and
because and from that, because and you're right, when we were brought in as slaves from Africa, we didn't obviously know the English language, so how we taught ourselves, or how either others taught us how to read, was through the Bible.
Right.
So, and then of course, the white slave owners used the Bible as a means of controlling us by saying that the color of our skin is of the lower race, therefore we are classified as slaves and should abide by our owners and all that good stuff. So yes, you're right. It is very ironic that we continue to hold on to that, because I think, and I'm not speaking for most Black people or any people in the past, that my perception is that was held onto because, again, like I said, that's all we had. That is how we learned English and how we try to conform ourselves and be accepted into this new world, because that's what we want. We wanted acceptance from being, slaves, post, during the Reconstruction era, when we were given some rights, but not all of them. So we had to demonstrate and show ourselves, assimilate, for lack of any other word, to show that, we are a part of this culture. We should be accepted as people. And so we are going to follow this, Christian belief, and, just has carried on from there.
And not separate but equals.
Yeah. Well, I will just tack on. I'm sorry. I just want to tack onto that just real quick. And also too, like one of the first organizations, institutions that were actually owned by Black folk in the United States were churches.
Yeah.
So that was the place that was completely your voice, your money, your institution. White folk is not controlling this per se. And that's that, and even in my opinion, that's another reason why it's a very hard thing to let go.
Very hard.
Yeah. But Christianity is forced onto any oppressed group of people. I mean, in Australia, the Indigenous people of Australia, there's a bit of a uproar happening right now because fundamentalist Christians are trying to go into native Australian groups of people, and this is huge because the Australian culture, like the Indigenous culture of Australia, is 60-odd thousand years old. And after whites invaded Australia, they destroyed so much. I think we've got less than half the original languages still surviving, and all but 20 are endangered. And there's a lot of Christian churches that are run by Indigenous people, and I mean, good for them if they want to be Christian, but for me, I mourn the loss of the oldest religion and oldest culture on the planet has been absolutely decimated because of Christianity. And as I said, there's a petition happening right now in Australia to stop evangelicals coming into a group of people, like into one of the groups for that reason. And it's really, really sad. It's really, really sad and very, very frustrating. I mean, don't go there. Like the people there have actually said, we don't want you here, go away, and they insist on coming in. Like they're not even accepting that. So it makes me.
They're convinced it's their job. They're convinced that I'm doing it for your own good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
It's sad. It really pisses me off. So it's like interesting when I look back at my family, and I hate trash talking my family. I have a wonderful family. It's just it's very, very indoctrinated, and so I look back at that. I'm like, God, you know. Actually, I forget where I was going with that. Sorry. Anyway.
Yeah.
Family indoctrination. Yeah.
One of my Australian friends in the chat just mentioned, his name's Vagrant Sam. He goes that they're burning the Indigenous people's artifacts as demonic.
Oh my God.
Oh no.
Mm.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. So
that.
it's horrendous. And it's absolutely horrendous.
Susan, I'm going to ask you to send me that book.
Yes. Yeah. I might still have my copy of it, or I can send
just
you a
let me
link
know what
to
it. Just let me know what it is.
Yeah. I don't know if you and I are friends on Facebook yet. Are we friends on Facebook yet? I don't know if we are. I'll friend request you. Yeah, I'll friend request you.
Well, I'm loving learning about any kind of history or any kind of culture from a personal perspective, because I feel like I've heard it from the history books, you know, but I want to hear it from the person experiencing its eyes. Like I am Malala and A Thousand Splendid Suns. Like I'm addicted to this kind of thing. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Candace Gorham is wonderful, and I absolutely love her. So she's just such a nice person. I love her.
Nice. I'm sorry, guys. Like I was having some internet issues, but I'm back now. Yay, cool.
Yay!
All right, next question.
Now that I've sufficiently derailed it, I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
We're learning.
We'll right. Yeah. And this is what this is all about. This conversation is all about learning. Right. Yes. So, so question for you all. So do you think that women are underrepresented in like atheism as a whole in like a social media sphere? And if you do, why?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
Oh
yeah. Atheism, even, you know, from like the new atheism stuff, which is, you know, the Four Horsemen and everything. And it was such we were talking about this on a stream I was on like last week or something. You know, it was very much the reactionary atheism with a whole bunch of cishet white dudes. And it's like, you know, when women in general, and it's not, you know, not just, you know, women in general, realistically, you know, when we have to fight so hard to be taken seriously, you know, as somebody who is pretty certain of their position on, you know, a lack of belief in God, you know, and I know where I was going. I'm just brain farting right now. I've only had 4 cups of coffee today, and I got 3 hours of sleep last night.
Oh my gosh.
Well, when I think about where we are as women right now, I'm thinking about how we're fighting to keep the right to have whatever medical procedure we choose. You know, like that kind of thing. We're still having that talk. So it's not really surprising to me that in such a small community that used to be only, you know, just I think the last time that they had voice, it was just white dudes ruling the planet, I guess. But I don't know. I think we're progressing, and I think that I like that we're doing this. You know, we're all talking. Our voices are all being projected, and so hopefully, with this new positive atheist movement, we can all get together and figure out that no matter what color of skin, no matter what gender, no matter what religion, we're all people. We're people.
Yeah.
I have to say that I think personally, that the lower echelons of YouTube atheism is probably almost female dominated. But once, as Susan said, as you get a bit higher, it skews to male domination. Like, if you ask anyone in this community, who are your favorite atheist YouTubers, or I would guarantee you the top 10 of which 2 of them might be women, and probably none of them are people of color. Sorry, Cynthia's. Yeah, non-white people.
Sure.
I think that there might be a cultural thing in there, because that's repeated throughout all things. Like, it's in science. Tell me your favorite scientist, and everyone will say someone like Neil deGrasse Tyson, or who is great. Don't get me wrong. Or like, just name me one female science communicator that everyone knows.
I couldn't. I can't name one.
Alive?
That are live.
Oh,
For me, it's Cara Santa Maria. Cara Santa Maria
yeah.
is I love her, and I met her as well. Anyway.
Oh, I'm jealous. I was just listening to the episode of God Awful Movies she was on like a few weeks ago. I was just listening to that one earlier, and I love her. She's so great.
She's amazing. She is, but she's literally the only female science communicator that I can think of that it has a decent following. Like, I've got myself, Scientist Mel, Jen's Little Corner. Like, they're all, but we're in. I think Mel is much bigger than me, and she's only got 1,000 YouTube subs. So we have to. I think in the lower echelons there are a lot of women in the female atheist movement, but once you get higher, I think it's really only Rachel Oates and what's her name?
Shannon Q.
Yeah. And I can't remember. She's got like 1 million subs. Blonde hair. Had a spat with Morgan from Morgan and Paul Morgan. Anyway, I'll remember her name.
Yeah, one of us is gonna think of it in like 5 minutes and be just all
right.
Yeah. So I do think it's a cultural thing, not just an atheist thing.
I was going to say, like, you're going to remember, like, in the middle of your sleep, and then you're going to wake up and just screaming out, and then nobody's going to be around.
Yes. Hang on, I'm going to... Jacqueline Quinn. Jacqueline.
There you go.
There we go.
Okay.
Thank you, chat. We appreciate that.
Thanks, Chris.
All right. Yeah. I'm sorry. Was there anybody want to chime in? Go ahead.
Just a quick bit. I think, being a woman in the atheist community, it's definitely a subculture within a subculture, especially if you're a minority. It's an additional subculture because, for me, it took quite a long time to even realize, like, oh, there are Black atheists. So who knew? It's really hard because I almost struggle on a daily basis to realize how much of the culture of being raised in a religious household has been so much ingrained to me that I have sometimes a bit of a cognitive dissonance to certain things or aspects or things I perceive that I should have already done in my life that has not happened yet. And I feel like, oh, maybe if I was still religious, it probably would have, but that's okay. But that being said, I feel that there's this rigid hierarchy in place that is and it's funny because I kind of just had this discussion a couple of weeks ago. There's this rigid hierarchy of just, it's only recognizable, the new atheist community movement is just a white male because they tend to be the automatic voice to, a representation of, of this. And so much of it, is preached about, being accepting of everyone and not judging and being totally completely opposite of religions. to where, you know, so much of the conversation is dominated by philosophical arguments, by, you know, knowing your latest fallacies and how to pull them out and tell it to the next person, which I don't even know, you know, let alone I have very little knowledge about philosophy, nor did I really care at some point. I love science, but I'm not about to just have a big discussion about it, but even though I have a science background. But my issue is that we as women, there is a level of uncomfortability when it comes to being in atheist community because, you know, just as you, Jenna, were saying, where your concern is about a woman having the right to choose her medical, you know, procedures or what she wants to do with her own body. I feel that addressing the most pressing social issues that we have now versus arguing with the theists about the existence of a God is pointless. I feel that if we can use our atheism to, you know, bridge the gap between believers and non-believers, be, you know, respectful of one another and, you know, reach out to one another and have decent and good conversations to where we're not always combative and we can get to the root cause of making better efforts to address social issues that we're dealing with now versus trying to argue on whether or not a God exists.
Because
and then, you know, women tend to be more on those lines versus men do. And then just because of that, we're looked upon as lesser because we can't quickly say a scripture right offhand or say the next best fallacy that someone you know, is presenting or things like that. Because I certainly can't do that, nor do I have a reason to, because that's not important to me. What's important to me is my well-being and everyone else that I interact with well-being.
The thing is that the reason that I focus specifically on atheism is kind of for that reason, because I know it looks like it's just, you know, does a God exist? And it's a question that people have been asking forever. And haven't we answered that by now? But the fact is that there's so many, it's mind-blowing to me when I look at how many people on the planet are religious or claim to be religious. Because when I think about the religion and how it works, I think that that's the base of all of our problems. Like when I was younger, I would think about climate change or, you know, immigration, like all of these problems that we're having. And I would be like, oh my God, it's just too much. I can't handle it. And so I would just block it all out. But I'm like, oh no, we can narrow it down to atheism, because if these people believe that there is something up in the sky that gives a shit about what they do in their bedroom, you know, like you really believe this, then I'm concerned. How do you know who to vote for? How do you know how do you know anything? You know, like if we can figure that out and we can expose the flaws of that kind of thinking, then we can start being like, okay, now let's talk about all the problems. Now let's use our brains and talk.
It's exactly what I said yesterday. I was on the Daily Atheist show, and I said something like that. Religion is just a subset of irrational beliefs. So you need to tackle the origin of irrational beliefs, and the only way to do that is critical thinking.
That's very true.
And it doesn't get taught. It doesn't get taught.
I never took a critical thinking class.
Critical thinking is a skill. It is actually a skill. You need to learn how to think critically.
Cindy, can I take your class? I want to take your critical thinking class.
As soon as it's ready, yes, sure.
All right. Yeah, you need to send me a link too, because I really want to sign up for that too.
I'd like to learn that too.
Don't we have an interview booked? Cindy?
No.
No? Then I meant to ask you.
Sure, yes. Yeah.
I saw you on Ethan's on this channel, and you said some things. I was like, I could learn from you.
Sure. I would love to.
So, so since we're on that particular piece, do you all feel that your critical thinking skills actually increased when you kind of accepted being atheist, or no?
Yes.
Not automatically.
No, I don't think so.
Talk about that.
So my deconversion story is sort of having to go back a little bit. I between being Christian and being atheist, I was what I like to deem an apatheist, in that I did not care one way or another whether God existed. I just sort of like stopped going to church. I stopped giving a crap. I was just all like, I mean, if he's there, he's there, whatever, don't care. And then, I finally eventually was all like, I mean, I guess I don't believe in God. So I didn't have that moment, or like any sort of moment of, oh my gosh, that realization that a lot of people have. So there wasn't any sort of aha moment for me. So I never really was able to dive into a lot of the the subject matter and the idea of critical thinking like other people, because I was just too busy not giving a crap. So I'm, when I see people who are all like, I'm learning about this and I'm learning about this, and just all like, I want to do that, and that's awesome, and I love that you're doing it. That's so amazing. I really want to be able to do that too, though. So, yeah.
I think it depends on whether the deconversion is the cause of someone learning critical thinking, or whether it's for other reasons, and then you learn critical thinking skills because of the people you meet then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that if you want to find out how to become interested in things that you're not interested in now and you want to be, ask people who really enjoy and are like really big on that subject, and get them to teach you, because their passion will transfer over. You'll be like, oh my God, this is cool.
Oh yeah.
That's how I learn anything.
Yeah. It's like me and Star Wars. I can teach people about Star Wars. So that's what I'm passionate about right there.
Well, I think it's important that, Matt brought me on AXP not knowing shit. And I think he did that on purpose, because it's not the fallacy show. It's not, let's bash you show. It's the atheist experience. That's all. Like, it just started from a group of friends that wanted a community and just started hanging out and doing shows. Like, that's just, there's no rules really.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I just know that anytime that, like, if I'm listening to the Atheist Experience or any of the other ACA shows like Talk Heathen, like, I cringe as soon as I hear the word syllogism. Just saying.
I'm like, oh no,
like, oh, that's a pretty butterfly.
Go Matt.
Right. Don't put me on speed now.
Wouldn't it be funny one time during a show, like, hey, hold on, let me call him. Hey,
right.
And that's a bit of a problem I find with philosophy circles. It is a bit of a circle jerk, like, in the sense, like, you have these amazingly huge words and you're saying, oh, syllogism and epistemology, and it's just like, can you speak English?
That's why I fell in
Explain
love.
like I'm 5.
That's why I fell in love with Neil deGrasse Tyson, because he was the first person that put science in people language.
Yeah,
I heard.
Megan did a pretty good job.
Yeah.
He's a fantastic teacher.
Yeah, I totally agree. You know what? There was a question in the chat that I wanted to. Oh, okay. Yeah, this one from Richard Graves. And shout out to Richard Graves. He is the other half of the other show that we do on the sister channel to this YFNA News called The 13th Percent. So that we do together. Yay, that's great. So he said, and if our lovely producer wants to highlight this, I don't know if you can get to see it, he asked on Facebook, I get that you guys are atheists, but are you all seriously trying to change the entire history and social anthropology of human jurisprudence? I really can't read. And the rule of law by redefining the actuality the actuality of the inexorable link between morals, ethics, and law to validate your atheism. Why is that even necessary for you?
Can I rewind by a few seconds of, can you speak English?
I know. I was gonna say that.
This is what we mean.
I don't know half. I don't know two of those words.
It's a
Sorry,
lot.
Richard, but I just
You
don't
know,
understand
Can you
that.
put it in
That's-
people language?
Yeah, I was gonna
My
say,
main takeaway is sorry. I'm so sorry.
yeah, no, I was gonna say, Richard, can you like rewrite that and like and dumb it down? Richard is I will say that Richard is a doctoral candidate, a doctoral candidate. So yeah, so he's really smart, and that's great. But if I would attempt to try to make more, in plainer English, I would assume that what he was trying to ask is that are we basically trying to change like what history has kind of like put on as far as like religion is concerned, and how and how that's affected culture and people and things of that nature, and kind of like I don't know if he was saying that try to redefine morals and in that particular fact to say that it's cool to be atheist, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think he was responding to our discussion about moral and ethics earlier.
Mm.
And he probably thinks that we were ignoring how in history morals have been linked to ethics and to law. I mean, from what I can understand, he seems to think that morality leads to ethics, which leads to laws in society.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think he means. But please correct me if I'm wrong.
Why can't we start from ethics?
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems like a better place to start.
Yeah, I think it depends on the definition of the words. I just think this is a problem of the definitions and the meaning we give to those words.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess we are redefining some words. But
Yeah.
somebody defined the words in the first place.
The joy
then
of
shit
language.
happened.
Right.
I would say like language is like viruses. They're ever evolving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Changing, yeah.
Like 500 years ago, if we got transplanted 500 years ago into Elizabethan England, no one would understand us.
No.
No one would understand us.
Yeah, to us it looks all poetic, Ooh, they're speaking in song.
Right. I was about to say, like, every 2 seconds somebody's saying thus and thou and if it's
right. I used to be really, really semantical when I was hardcore religious, because they're like, no, that's not what that word means. No. And then I started listening. Like, there's a TED talk. There's a woman who's on the board of a dictionary, I guess, and she said that she was talking to us about how words are created, and she's like, yes, that's why the dictionary changes. Is because we use the words differently. And so, yes, we do change it.
Slang develops.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and then slang kind of becomes proper in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Words get added to the dictionary.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Get her done is in the dictionary.
Oh,
is it?
dear.
What?
Oh, no. Oh,
I
what?
just was my background.
oh no.
Are you
Stand with
serious?
me.
Yeah.
What word?
my
I missed that.
God.
Get her done.
So, are
Get
you
her
familiar
done.
with Larry the Cable Guy?
Oh, was that him?
I don't
Yeah, that was Larry the
exist,
Cable
but
Guy. If you're not familiar with him, just be glad you're not.
Okay, I won't.
He's
a certain kind of funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, because wasn't YOLO also inserted
it
into
is.
the dictionary? Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
Not
I got
hers.
my life. I got my life when I found this was in the dictionary now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I remember my mother used to tear me a new hole anytime that I actually came in the house talking like that. What do you mean? I'm like, you dissing me, Mom? Get away.
It's like every generation does that to the next generation. Like I'm 33, so feasibly I know people who are my age who have like 13-year-olds and stuff. And like I find myself going, oh my God, get off my lawn. So I'm like, oh, I'm so not hip. I was never hip, but you know, judging from the fact that I'm using the word hip, obviously I never was.
It's okay. I use hip and I still use groovy, so it's all good.
Apparently somebody said I can't wait till yeet is in the dictionary, but apparently jeet yet is. I've heard that. I don't know that for sure, but I've heard that jeet yet is.
I learned something new today.
Right.
Basically the same thing. Just,
I'm sorry. What is jeet yet?
Did you eat yet?
Did you eat? Oh, jeet yet. Did you eat yet? Oh, okay. Wrinkle in my brain. That's great.
I didn't know that.
Right.
I didn't know. Wow, I did not know that. Oh my
That's
goodness.
awesome. I love it.
I often find it is necessary if you're going to go into a conversation is to define your terms, because for example, I did a video on what I thought was the most abusive part of religion, which is the indoctrination of children. And someone was like, oh, it's not abuse. And I'm like, for me, if something causes harm, it is abuse, especially if it's repeated over and over again.
Yeah.
So, and that was in a comment conversation on that video, because what someone might think that, you know, indoctrination is just fine. It's not abusive, but you know, it is abusive to me because it causes harm over a long period of time.
Yes.
And it causes trauma.
Yeah, you're totally right. I mean, like, how many people actually, you know, may have questioned or, you know, were in a religious setting and they were afraid to even leave because they were afraid of the consequences that would come from a deity that they can't even corroborate. Person above me. Exactly.
Yeah. That fear that fear is so very real. Like it just gets instilled from basically from the get-go. I mean, granted they'll teach you like the very, very basic versions of like Noah's Ark and
Jesus,
you know, Jesus. Yeah, exactly. But they don't, you know, once you reach a certain age, it's all like, hey, guess what? You're totally going to go to hell. Like if you if you have sex or, you know, if you curse or if you're whatever, I don't even know what's technically a sin anymore. But like it's that fear.
Show your ankles.
Right.
Yeah.
Like do something, wear your hair in a bun instead of a braid. I don't know.
Were y'all all Christian?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Were any of y'all Catholic? No.
I went to well.
Yeah.
You were, yeah. I was, well, I came from Episcopal tradition, but like I was kind of.
That's close, right?
Yeah, it's super close. It's like the only thing that's different is just that the priest can marry. To be honest, with you. Yeah. It's
basically Catholicism light.
Oh, yes. Well, I was told that y'all don't have the real body of Christ.
Well, we drank wine for
only
communion.
We had the real body of Christ. Y'all are drinking the fake body of Christ.
Right.
But what if you're called Jesus?
If what?
What if you're called Jesus?
It's like, hold on. Well, so this is something I learned from Eddie Izzard back when I was like 12 years old. So Episcopalianism is the American offshoot of the Anglican Church, the Church of England.
Right.
And the Anglican Church was founded because Henry VIII wanted to get a divorce.
Right.
So the Catholic Church was all like, no, you can't do that. And Henry VIII was all like, I will start my own religion. And I don't remember the rest of that, but it's Eddie Izzard. So Eddie Izzard's great.
Well, and then, you know, after he started it and then he ended up marrying Anne Boleyn, he ended up killing her. So there you go.
I know. And then Queen Elizabeth, her daughter, ruled.
Sure did.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. That's Episcopalian 101. Bam. All right.
I've learned.
And people were killed over like one line difference in the Lord's Prayer. Like people were literally killed because there was like a few words different in the Lord's Prayer.
Right before
Trespasses
Queen
versus
Elizabeth
sin.
ruled, it was Bloody Mary.
What was that?
yeah.
Sorry.
She killed a shit ton. She burned a lot of people alive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Protestants.
Oh my goodness! If you all see what they're all Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary.
Now you're gonna turn around, throw the water at the mirror, and I don't know.
Yeah, all that stuff. Like, was it like if you said it like 3 times in like the mirror, and all of a sudden, like she'll come out and come and get you? Some crazy.
I could never do it.
Well,
There's never bring yourself to.
There's actually a scientific reason why this came from, actually.
Please tell us.
Because if you stare in the mirror for long enough, your brain starts to get confused. And you're, because it's sort of going, what's going on? I think it's especially if you're in a dark room with a bright background, you actually start hallucinating. And
that's why
so if you say that, that's why you got to do it. Yeah. So that's actually, there's a reason, because apparently it's really creepy. I've been meaning to do it, but I haven't actually got around to it. But if you stare in the mirror for long enough, your brain gets confused and you do start hallucinating, and apparently it's really freaky. So that's probably where it comes from.
Free mushroom trip.
Yeah,
right? Without the mushrooms,
right?
Yeah. Plus the horror. Apparently, it's really scary.
Oh wow! I heard like this is, I think that I got this from like a friend of mine like back in high school, that if you put a candle in front of a mirror and then you turn off the light, and if you stare, eventually you will see what you look like in a past life.
Yeah, that's probably like it's a variation on that as well.
Yeah. I was thinking about doing it, but I was afraid of what I was going to look like. I didn't know. I mean, like, was my hair going to be okay? I mean,
I used to think that I had a past life in like the Elizabethan era.
Really?
Because I love learning about it so much. I must have been born there.
Right.
Like, I find it so fascinating because I lived then. Yeah.
It must be a part of me.
Right. I used to think that I was born wrong because I really like the 70s. Like, I like the fashion and like, the roller skating, and I really like disco. Don't judge me. And so I just thought that, maybe I was born in the wrong area. So, see, one atheist, 0 God. There you go. I
was like that in the 60s when I was a kid. So I got you. I feel you.
So let me ask you all this. So like, what do you think that are the needs of, that are specific to like new atheist women? Like, women who actually have like come out of like a religious background, no matter what it is. And, they're coming into this space, everything is kind of new, and they really don't, like, cause I know for myself, like I kind of went through a angry phase, like an angry, disappointed. That's what I call it. Angry to disappointed phase. I would kind of teeter in between. So, and then I kind of like, went through kind of like the stages of grief, kind of like, when you divorce yourself from that. So, but what would you all say that like, in order to help like somebody really be able to make that transition, especially when they're a woman, what would that need be?
This.
Yeah.
Exactly this. More of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely a culture shock. It was for me. Like I, was in a desperate state. It was just August of last year that I found the ACA Discord after tuning into Talk Heathen. And then they had plugged the Discord. And prior to that, like I had expressed for several years, I just had my own inner monologue. I had no one to share what I was feeling. So I kept bouncing in and out of my faith. Trying to like say, okay, I'll just be a good Christian, and so that even though I'm suffering, my family will be happy. you know, that was it for me. So, but, you know, dealing with the emotional things that I deal with, once I finally found this community, it was just another transition from one culture to another. It was a big culture shock for me. Yes, I found very great friends that I have now that I speak to almost on a daily basis, and we have discussions and we hang out or whatever, like virtually hang out.
Social distancing.
Well, even prior to, you know, the social distancing, like virtually, because everyone's like from everywhere else.
Right.
But, you know, I got met with, you know, philosophers. I got met with people that identified as atheists, but were very ultra conservative in their ideals. You know, it's just a whole wide, and that's fine. I'm not saying anything against it. It was just a whole spectrum of very different people and things that I never knew or understood. So it was helpful that I had the select few people that I attached to on a daily basis to, you know, guide me through in a way. So yes, just like Jenna put it out, things like this truly helped. I remember it was a show on Talk Heathen a few months back. There was a girl named Michelle. I haven't seen her since, and I've been trying to keep getting in contact with her, and I hope maybe it's some miraculous thing that she's watching. But I private messaged her, so we'll see. But you know, she was in a state that I identified. And she, you know, she was a Black atheist now too. Well, she's Black, but transitioning out of wherever she was coming from, and she was slowly accepting her atheism. But she was in the angry stage, like this. But Cynthia just says I was at a point in time too. So it was very. I really felt for her. I really did. Like you know, just having to hear her, you know, express how angry she was and express how confused she was and how hurt that she was dragged through and manipulated and all that stuff. And I'm like, I understand, and it's okay. Like now you're in a safe space, like feel safe, that you can finally express yourself and then learn and, you know, grow and thrive from it now. Like you no longer have that dependency on this. Like, and I expressed to her one time when we were talking, and I was like, you know, it's good that you've only been just, I think at that point she was like a few months out of like transitioning from being a Christian to just accepting atheism. And I told her, like, you know what, I'm so glad that you did not have to struggle for several years like I did on your own, because it was so hard. And I don't know where I would be if I didn't find this space. I don't know who I would talk to. I don't know, because I have no one outside of this. So I'm just glad that, you know, it takes, you know, the effort of us women. It takes the effort of, you know, the atheist community in general to just be mindful that people that come out of that space into this need positive guidance and not just be bombarded or manipulated all over again.
Yeah. And that's a real danger, because people, when they lose their faith, they don't lose themselves. Right. And so a lot of the damage done by indoctrination is still there. And you will still find that people who are fresh into the atheist community are very misogynistic, very homophobic, because they're still, that like all they've done is gone, I don't believe in God. It doesn't mean that like they don't immediately miraculously become left-leaning socialist, you know, people. Like it's just like
ultra liberals,
progressives. Oh my goodness, burn them all. But yeah, it's sort of like it can take years and years. I mean, I haven't been a Christian since I was 16, and it wasn't until like only a couple of years ago I was still having sex shame. So so it takes a long time to undo it. And we do need to be respectful of the fact that people are not only just undoing the damage done to them by believing in God. We also have to understand that they have to undo a lot of that angry Christian things. Like there's just there's some, I hate to say this, but some atheists are just as religiously minded as they were when they were Christian. And we as a community as a whole have to go, no dude, or dudette, whatever you, or however you however you feel like you want to be. You can't say that. You can't do that. Like we need to sort of, like, those people are the ones that continue on that all atheists are angry bastards who just hate God. And I can understand that, because it's very easy to swing the pendulum to the same point on the other end of the spectrum. So as a community, we all have to start calling out atheists who do that.
And I am going to recommend 2 things. One of them seriously helped me through my angry atheist phase, because I've only been an atheist 1.5 years, so close to, I think, Jenna's amount of time. And I'm still angry, but street epistemology really helped, because I found out that I didn't have to go and learn apologetics and all the counter arguments. I didn't have to get involved in this debate. I didn't have to learn how to debate, which I thought I did initially. I was like, oh God, now oh shit. But now I'm like, no, I don't have to. So all I have to do is ask questions. And if you're doing SE right, you genuinely care about what the other person has to say. Because if you're trying to trap somebody, you're not really asking them a question, are you?
No.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
But then the other thing is recovering from religion.
I was going to suggest that.
Yeah, a lot of people have had a lot of help from that. I haven't specifically, but I've talked to people. And also they need volunteers. So if you've been in a situation and you know what it's like and you want to help and you don't have your own YouTube channel, volunteer for Recovering for Religion.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or the ACA.
That too.
We need help too.
I think so much of what ties into the anger is, I mean, I know Nervardia touched on this and Jenna touched on this. It's because the way that religion, and specifically Christianity, the way that religion treats women and perceives women and expects us to act, we are taught, and if you see stuff like, what's her name? Transformed Wife. I think it's her, Lori, whatever. Yeah. She's always all like, so you basically have to do whatever the hell your husband wants you to do and stuff like that. And you have to be submissive and blah, 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 blah. When you're coming away from that, when you're like, okay, I'm distancing myself from religion. I'm distancing myself from this community and this way of thought. It's that holding on to that and being all like, well, what the hell? Like, I was duped for so long. It's so I totally get it. I think we should help people work through that anger. And Nervardia, you were mentioning the sex shaming stuff, and that's so deeply ingrained in it too.
And in our society in general.
Yeah.
Even if you're not even a religious person, you still get sex shamed. Like there's still purity shaming.
Yeah. So there's a book I've read a few of these books, not a ton. But there's Sex and God by Dr. Darrell Ray, who was one of the founders of Recovering from Religion.
He's a genius.
He is amazing and wonderful. So it's basically like TLDR of it is, this is how religion teaches us to be ashamed of things in our lives that are natural, things that we think that we have to suppress and just get rid of. It's a really good book for people who are coming out, so they can sort of deal with the anger and the shame and just the multitudes of feelings on it. So I highly recommend that one.
Nice. Good. Cindy, did you want to chime in?
I was wondering something about your deconversion stories and the struggle associated with it. Does the fact that atheists are considered the worst community in the US had an impact on your deconversion? Meaning, did you at some point think, oh my God, if I don't believe in God, I will become an atheist, and I can afford that because, atheists are evil and blah, blah, blah. Did that impact your transition, or I don't know?
Well, I think they, because of, the new atheism stuff and the angry atheism stuff, there tends to be such a negative connotation with the word. And I think making strides to be like examples of positive atheism, which I feel like every single person in this, in this stream right now is a very good example of positive atheism. Mm-hmm. I mean, and I'm mostly talking about y'all, not so much about me, but
whatever, you're positive.
I'm just disgustingly chipper. That's what I've been described as that.
I like that.
Sort of making the strides to get rid of the connotation with it and be, the positive examples, and make sure, the atheist group I was involved in my hometown of Corpus Christi, their volunteer shirts said "doing good for goodness sake." Because we're just like, we're not, doing this with the promise of an afterlife or anything. Right. We're just doing this because we give a crap about people, and
people who are doing it, they don't realize they give a crap too.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. So I think, I don't know what I think because I lost what I was saying. That's the second time I've done it. I lost what I was saying like before that.
I'm so bad at that. I'm working on it, but XP is not helping.
I'm about to say, does everybody need like some more coffee? I don't know. It's okay.
I have the Parks and Rec green screen, and I have a Nope Wyatt.
I haven't seen it.
Which currently is so
nice. Well, everyone, this has been wonderful.
It's fun.
So fun.
Yeah, this has been great. I mean, I'm sorry. Somebody was going to say something. Go ahead.
I was going to just quickly, before we wrap up, I want to address a comment from forever and a half years ago. What was it? How can Ghost Off Frost said, "How can a woman be an atheist?"
By not believing in God.
Right.
Just like anyone else.
What an odd question.
To be honest with you, I'm surprised there's not more atheist women, because as we have
out atheist women.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
because let's all just have a look at how well Christianity and Islam and Judaism, Judaism,
that one,
yeah.
whatever
that
the word is,
Judaism.
That's the word.
Yes.
They treat women so well.
I mean,
right. Yeah, like Islam.
Fantastic.
I know.
Yeah.
The Future of Tolerance. The Future of Tolerance is a great documentary, by the way, that supports everything we're talking about. It's about, actually, do you mind if I say something about it really quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Basically, the message that I got from it, which I think is really important, is that if we're just making fun of any religion, right? If we're mocking them to their faces, all we're doing is causing them to ingrain it more. They're just retreating back in their echo chambers even more. And so what we have in these religious communities is there's a very small percentage of people who happen to be somewhat more progressive, somewhat more liberal, and they're trying to create an influence in their own communities because we're not going to change them. We're not going to change their minds. No. It's going to have to be people that they trust already, or that they can have time to learn to trust, but if we can just leave them alone and just try to have conversations with them, stop mocking them to their, if you're with your friends, it's fun to let loose and let some energy out. But I'm just so against just this this snide, disregard and just acting like they're just all stupid. And I'm like, I was that person not long ago, y'all. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Have
it's
empathy.
such an insult to people, like, because and this is sort of something I've glommed on from Nathaniel. I really hate the term sky daddy because it's very, very like demeaning to people in my opinion. But I also really hate it when people call those who are religious delusional.
Yeah. Or that it's a mental illness.
Right.
I say brainwashed at times, but I'm using that as like a legitimate term.
Yeah.
Like that's the real thing.
Indoctrination.
Yeah. It's not like you grow up a new brain when you get out of religion, right?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to throw that in there.
No, all of that. No, I think that was, and that's a wonderful note to end on. So I know that we kind of went over a little bit, but whatever. This is like I said, this is a great conversation. I think that I'm hoping that we have more. Especially like for people who are very much so questioning and are needing like tools as far as like to kind of understand like what route that they really want to go for themselves. So I want to thank everyone for joining us. Just real quick, let's just go around and just everyone just kind of tell the audience where they can find you. We'll start with Jenna without a last name.
Well, I don't have social media, so I'm one of those anti-social media people. I don't have Facebook, Twitter, and that. Sorry.
Good on you. Keep it like that.
I canceled or deleted my Facebook like over 10 years ago, and I don't even know what it looks like anymore. But I am on the ACA Discord. I did mention I am a moderator there. I am, of course, an organizer for the International Free Thinkers server, which we host a weekly live stream every Wednesday, sort of around this time. I know, Jenna, you were popped in there for a tidbit on one of our conversations a couple weeks ago, so thank you. We also had Jen Aldridge on there one night. Actually, it was based on women in atheism and atheism around this topic when we had Jen Aldridge. So appreciate you being there, Jenna. You can find me on the Discord. That's pretty much it.
Discord's a big up and coming thing. I had no idea what it was, but it's like a new chat room, I guess.
Basically, yeah.
Right.
For all us nerds.
It's all good. Nervardia, tell us where we can find you.
You can find me on Twitter. It's easiest to get me on Twitter. I also have a YouTube channel based on flies.
Based on flies.
That's based on science and atheism, a little bit of like, hey, let's not be dicks to each other sort of attitude. But yeah, you can find me on my YouTube channel, and Twitter is best. I'm also on Facebook, but I only go on there once a week to tell Facebook that I've posted a video. So, you can follow me there, but I won't answer.
Nice. And Jenna Belk, tell us where we can find you.
I have a show, Atheistasis, on my channel. It's just my name, Jenna Belk, because I anticipate having different shows at some point. But so youtube.com/Jenna Belk, and then AXP. Usually 1 or 2 Sundays a month I'm on, and that's at 4:30 Central. If you want to call and you want to get on, call early. And then I'm also on Godless Bitches 3.
Yes.
And I think that's actually pretty relevant, because we're trying to we've been called, people have been called godless bitches forever. And so we're trying to be like, hey, we're those godless bitches that you're referring to, and we're not bitches. Look at that.
See, there you go.
Yeah.
Nice. Susan, tell us where we can find you.
So I'm on Facebook because I need to get rid of it because it's a cesspool. I am on Twitter. I'm Motel Cowboy on Twitter. I am half of Divine Disbelief. We are also on Twitter there, Divine Disbelief. Nathaniel mostly runs the Twitter. I only sort of don't really get on it at all. And then we're YouTube, Divine Disbelief. What else do we have? We have a Facebook page for it too. I don't even know anymore. I just spend all my time working and editing videos, and I haven't gotten a lot of sleep in the last few nights as a result of the video we're currently working on.
Oh my god!
But I do have to say, I did not ever think I would find a way to link marching band and the Gospel of Luke, and I did. So
Well done.
That's interesting.
Oh my!
So I'm excited for the next video.
Oh wow! Yeah, I'm tuning into that one because I really want to know. And last but not least, Cindy Plaza, tells the people where they can find you.
Well, so far I don't have any channel. I have a Facebook page which is on my name, so you can find it easily. Otherwise, I have a few videos on Ethan's channel, so the one we are currently on, Your Friendly Neighborhood Atheist. And maybe in the future it's going to change, but I have trouble finding exactly what I'm going to do right now. So
that's all right. You're going to figure it out. It's all good.
yeah.
Well, once again, ladies, thank you for joining us on Your Friendly Neighborhood Atheist for this very first Women of Atheists Roundtable. Yay!
What about you? Where do we find you?
Yes.
Yeah, who are you? I don't know you.
Right, who are you? Right. Well, you can find me on Twitter at Cam Glamming. And also, I am on Facebook. I do have a Facebook page, just as Cam, under Cam Music, because I do sing. Like you, Jenna, I was choir director, all that great stuff. Yay.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't do the praise dance. And yes, I did. That's a lie. That's a lie. Anyway. And I'm also on the sister channel to this YFNA News with the 13%. That is on every other Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, where we talk a lot about socio-political issues for concerning the Black community. So yeah,
That's right before the Discord, right? If we are sober on Discord.
Yeah.
So
I'm
if
sorry,
you want to catch both,
I didn't even plug the name of the freaking show.
the internet. Oh yeah, International Free Thinkers.
Just gonna kill me. On International Free Thinkers server, the show that we have every Wednesday at I want to say 7 p.m. specific. It's called If We Are Sober. So IF, We Are Sober. There's a long reason why that's titled. I won't get into that, but there you go.
Next
I'm glad
roundtable,
it's specific,
Jenna.
though.
Right.
I'm very glad it's specific because I'm in Oregon, so that's perfect for me.
Yeah.
I love it.
Nice. So if you all just stay on for a little moment, make sure to get everyone out there in YouTube land, Facebook land, and wherever you're watching this, please like and subscribe to this channel. We will see you all on the next go round. Ta-ta for now. Bye.